tightrope walker puts a tightrope across Niagara Falls. There's a whole bunch of audience watching, and he walks across this thing. Then he goes and he gets a wheelbarrow and goes across again. Then he puts his dog in the wheelbarrow and goes across with his dog. Then his son, then his wife, then a bunch of his friends goes across in this wheelbarrow. Gets near the end of the day, he's been doing this all day. He looks out in the audience, and there's this one guy who's just been so excited all day long. And he goes up to this guy, and he says, "You think I can do it again?" The guy goes, "Absolutely, of course. I know you can do it again." Says, "Are you sure?" "Of course, I've been watching you all day. You could do it again easily." Tightrope walker goes, "I don't think you think I can do it again." And the guy goes, "What are you talking about? I absolutely certain know you can do it again." Tightrope walker goes, "Okay, get in the wheelbarrow." He goes, "Well..." Let's do our receptivity prayer. I am open to the evolution of my soul. My mind is alert. My heart is open. Next step is here and now. So it is. That's a true story I just told you guys. It really happened. And so my talk for today is get in the wheelbarrow. Because we only get to experience the true power that is within us when we take that risk and we get in the wheelbarrow. Now, my talk for today, you're going to need to be alert because this might get a little confusing. It turns out that it actually doesn't matter what you believe. You know, what we teach here and what I believe is that we are this divinity. We are this power. But what I notice is if somebody believes in God or Jesus or Allah and takes it on to the level of embodiment, they get the same results we do. So it's really a matter of, do you take it all in? Because what we teach here is not what to believe, but we teach here is what you embody manifests. So you believe whatever you want, what you embody manifests. It doesn't matter. If you think that Jesus is right with you every step of the way and is holding your hand, if you believe in guardian angels and you believe in it to the point of embodiment, I guarantee you it will work just as well as knowing yourself as that divine source. It doesn't matter. And the truth for me personally is I don't care what you believe. I care that what you have is a magnificent life. I care that you're healthy and whole, and that your dreams are coming true. That's what I care about. And so you get to believe and be here in that belief any way you want, as long as we're really clear that you need to embody it fully. And if you have embodied something that isn't giving you the results you want, then you're not getting in the wheelbarrow. And if you're not getting in the wheelbarrow, you're not experiencing that very power you say you believe in. When things get rough, that's when it's time to dig in. That's when it's time to remember that to abandon the truth in our hour of need is to not understand the truth. Which, by the way, is now on the wall outside because of Deanna, who's back doing our streaming today. So let's have a hand for the woman who spent time putting that up on the wall. To abandon the truth in your hour of need is to not understand the truth. So last Sunday, I get out of here with very little charge. I have a 100% electric car. And I get out of here with very little charge. I make it all the way home and go to where I normally charge it, which is at the library around the corner from my house. and the charging station is down, and now I have not enough charge to really get anywhere else. And I decide to abandon the truth in our hour of need is to not understand the truth. Since I'm up here teaching this stuff, it would be a really good idea at that moment if I actually embodied that idea myself. So I decide to just make a treatment, go home, and enjoy my evening with my wife because we have a standing date for Sunday night. And so about 8 p.m., I go back over there, and I notice that 2 of the stations are now back up, but there's a line waiting to use them. Now, I don't have enough charge to get to work on Monday. But I decide I got to really be in there with this stuff. So once again, I do my treatment. I know it's going to work out. And I go home. And when I get home, I realize all I need to do is go to sleep and that I will wake up when that station is ready for me. So I go to bed, knowing I'm getting to work in the morning. Wake up about 1 a.m., go to my phone because it tells me whether the stations are available or not, and it still says they're all busy. And I think to myself, no way. Because I know that I was going to wake up when they were available. So I walk on over there, and sure enough, one of the cars that's still charged in is full. It says it's full. And so I pull it out of that, put it in my car, go back home to bed. Next day, wake up, my car is now full, and I get here to work. And I didn't stress out about it, not once. And that was so cool because I've spent a lot of time in my life stressing about stuff. So it's really cool when I put this stuff to work. You can try it yourself. That's called getting in the wheelbarrow. When we get in the wheelbarrow, this stuff really does work. You stand for it, you believe it, and then boom, boom, boom. Did you know that people who believe in Santa Claus get more presents than people who don't? There's actually been a survey about that. It doesn't matter what you believe, as long as you fully embody it. And if what's showing up in your life is not what you want, I highly recommend changing what you're embodying so that you can have show up what it is you actually do want. When you embrace the truth, when you embrace this stuff, you get in that wheelbarrow and you let this power that is you, or however you want to think about it, carry you across the falls. Now, a lot of folks, they take classes, they say the affirmations, and by the way, I highly recommend saying affirmations all day long, but affirming that you are a powerful, creative, spiritual being, affirming that you are whole and healthy, affirming that you are prosperous, affirming that you have the relationships, magnificent relationships in your life, and that your life works magnificently. The first thing I do when anything isn't going my way is remind myself that I am a powerful, creative, spiritual being, and my life works magnificently, and whatever is going on doesn't change that. That is the first thing I do when something happens that, pisses me off or annoys me or whatever. It's my default. And so I'm not saying don't do that. What I am saying is that doing that all day long won't get you there if you then don't actually feel it and then, move with it. You got to actually take that action that moves you across. If you get in the wheelbarrow and you ask, imagine that fan saying, well, I'll get in the wheelbarrow, but don't take me across the falls, just kind of drive it over here on dry land. That's what a lot of us do, right? When we're just kind of like, getting our feet wet with this stuff, we're not really, because it's risky. It's risky to jump out there. It's risky, but that's where the miracles are. The miracles are in the risk. The miracles are going over the falls. The miracles are there for us each and every time. A couple of days ago, Ash spilled water all over her laptop. Now, I've been with her long enough now to know, seen her in the past really, get into high gear around something like that. She has her whole work life and everything else in that computer, and she could have really freaked out about it. Instead, she treated. She actually did, what we do around here. And then she brought it into me, told me what happened, and I said, oh, we'll bury it in rice and it'll be fine. So she goes across the lake, gets this huge bag of rice, brings it back over. I pour it into a box. We put the laptop in it, pour it all over, and we just let it go. And she just goes on with her day. I have never seen her so relaxed in that kind of calamity before, ever. And there she was, just completely calm about the whole thing, knowing that that thing was going to work again. And sure enough, 8 hours later, we pulled it out, boom, 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 turned on. It was perfectly fine. Now, you might say, well, anybody knows that if you know that thing about the rice, then of course it's going to work. Actually, rice only works about 30% of the time. It's not the be-all, end-all when you pour liquids on your laptop. But it worked this time. She knew it would. And that's the key about all this stuff. It's in the knowing and then getting in the wheelbarrow and allowing that knowing to carry you to the other side. Now, here's what you don't want to do. What you don't want to do is say, I know this, get in the wheelbarrow, have it be halfway across the falls, and then go, wait a minute, and change your mind and start freaking out. That is a great way to fall and get hurt, because it's dangerous. And I actually saw that happen at a firewalk. I watched a woman stop halfway across, walking across the fire. Luckily, the firekeeper was aware enough to grab her hand and just pull her off the side, but not before she had third-degree burns and had to be rushed to the hospital. The time to change your mind is not when you've already said yes and are already in the wheelbarrow going across. That's when you got to hang in there. My wife and I got this huge yes for getting married on the beach in front of this rather expensive restaurant that was then going to cater the whole thing. And so we signed a contract for a wedding that was going to cost more than we had made the year before, or at least I had made the year before. And so we didn't know how we were going to pay for it. We didn't know at all. And the year starts going by, and we send them some money here and some money there, but we're not getting anywhere close to what this wedding's going to cost. And there were times in the middle of this thing where my wife's going, I think we made a mistake. I really think we made a mistake here. I don't know, this was a really bad idea. I think that yes wasn't a real yes. And I kept going, no. We got the yes, we both sat there, we both signed the contract, this thing works out. It's up to us, not halfway, now that we're only 6 months away from the wedding, to start changing our minds about this. This is going to work. And sure enough, something came through that brought in enough money to pay for that whole thing that was completely unexpected and out of the blue. It's amazing what happens when you hang in there, you know the truth, and let the miracles happen. You got to get in the wheelbarrow. You'll never get to experience that miracle sitting on the sidelines and kind of getting your foot wet, going, well, I'll get in the wheelbarrow, but don't take me over that rope because that's dangerous. No, it doesn't work that way. You got to actually get out there and take the risk. You don't get to reap the rewards of the power that is here with us right now without taking the risk. But you don't want to also limit how it occurs, because limiting how it occurs is crazy, particularly if you're taking a risk. So there's this group, right? There's this group down in, where are they? Oregon, the Followers of Christ Church. Got about 1,000 followers, and over the past couple of years, 9 of their children have died because they won't take them to a doctor. I want you to know that's not getting in the wheelbarrow, that's jumping out of it. Ernest Holmes tells us, until you can walk on water, use a boat. This is not about not using what's available to you to use. Because if we say the only way a healing can come is through some mystical, magical force, we have limited our good. When I was in Cincinnati, I had finished the work I was doing there as an interim minister. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. I didn't know. where my money was coming from. I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know anything that was going to happen next, and I had very limited resources in the bank at that time. I knew that it was going to work out. What I knew is that if I follow the principles that we teach here, this thing was going to work out fantastically. That's what I knew. So every day I sit in prayer, I kept journaling, I kept doing all those things that I kept getting in me to do. What didn't come up once was job hunting. What didn't come up once was looking for another place to go. But I kept listening and I kept being with it. I wasn't expecting something to happen from nothing. I was expecting that I was going to create this at the perfect and right time, because that's a big part of what we got to believe here is in perfect and right time. And so then one day, just a couple of days before my money ran out completely, I had this amazing dream about writing a book called Cliff Notes for the Science of Mind textbook. I made a few phone calls, and somebody said, I will pay you to write that book. And in that same dream, I got this idea for an online center. I made a few phone calls and raised enough support that between the book and the center, I was totally covered now. My rent was covered, my food was covered, everything was covered. Boom, boom, boom. So the thing about that is I wasn't waiting for manna to fall from the sky. I was simply knowing my good was coming, and as soon as it showed up, I moved on it. I took the action. When my car got charged, it didn't get charged by some magical force. It got charged because I went there and charged it, but not till the perfect and right time. Getting in the wheelbarrow is trusting in perfect and right time. Getting in the wheelbarrow is knowing that your life works magnificently no matter what the circumstance, no matter what the diagnosis, no matter what your age, no matter what's going on, no matter what the challenge. Your life works perfectly, and when you can believe that deep enough and embody it, stuff shows up in ways you can't even imagine. It's unbelievable what's possible when we go there, but you don't do like that old joke with the guy on the roof with the flood. I'm sure many of you have heard this joke, and he's sitting there going, God will save me, and a helicopter comes by and drops a rope. And the guy goes, no, God will save me. A little while later, a speedboat comes by. Guy is sitting on the house, goes, no, God will save me. A little while later, a second boat comes by. Guy goes, no, God will save me. Water keeps rising, the guy drowns. Goes up to heaven, he's now sitting with God, and he's saying, I was praying and knowing for absolute certainty you would save me. Why didn't you save me? And God goes, what do you mean? I sent you a helicopter and 2 boats. So you got to look out for what's being sent to you, what's showing up in your life when you stand in this knowing, when you stand in the truth of who you are, when you stand in what's really possible here for your good. When the doctors told me I had 3 days to live, I went home knowing that they were wrong, not knowing how things were going to work out, just knowing that they would. So when we got the phone call saying, hey, since you're going to die anyway, why don't you go see this Hui healer that I've heard of and check that out, I knew that was mine to do, and I went and saw that healer, and that night was healed enough where I didn't die. That very night. I went there to see that healer with 106-degree fever. That night it went down to 101, but I took the action. I wasn't just going, no, God will heal me, and stayed at home. So part of the process is knowing when you're in that wheelbarrow to be aware of the obvious action that's in front of you. Because what I can tell you with absolute certainty is if you get in the wheelbarrow and you trust deeply around this, the next step for you to take will be obvious. It won't be like maybe I should and maybe I shouldn't. It will be obvious. It will show up. That's what's possible when we get in the wheelbarrow and we move forward this way. I went skydiving. I was shaking like a leaf. I was shaking so bad. And we went up in the plane, and I'm up there, and I'm shaking. and then it's time to jump. And I'm attached to a 250-pound guy who walked me to the door facing away from it, so I didn't even know when we were at the door. We turn. I'm supposed to be able to change my mind right up to the point of being at the door, but I'm attached to a 250-pound guy who turns and leans out of the plane, and then all of a sudden I'm outside the plane. And I see the plane. There's the plane. And there I am. In fact, I had enough time to think, this is just like what happens in the Wile E. Coyote cartoons. He always stops, gives a look before he falls. And so there I am looking at the plane going, there's the plane. This is just like Wile E. Coyote. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're falling at about 160 miles an hour. And something about seeing the plane, realizing that, I was more than in the wheelbarrow, I was like, out of the plane, I relaxed. I relaxed in a way I had never relaxed around heights in my life. Grew up with acrophobia. In fact, up to that moment, I had acrophobia, where I couldn't get on the second step of a ladder without beginning to shake. And then all of a sudden, I was fine, because I had stepped out and it was done. There was nothing left but to enjoy it. That's what happens when you step out. Then there's nothing left. You might as well stop being afraid. Stop worrying. Once you step out, it's done. You're going wherever it's carrying you. In this case, down. Till he pulled even when he pulled the parachute, we still kept going down, just slower, My favorite part of that was when we were about 10 or so feet from the ground. All of a sudden he did something with the chute to where we stopped. We stopped falling and came down so gradually that it was less impact than when I take a step down from here. It was unbelievable. Wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't been outside a plane at 15,000 feet to have that experience less than 10 feet from the ground. That's what's possible when we're willing to take the risk, when we're willing to step out, when we're willing to do more than we thought we even could. It is not a good demonstration if when we give our treatments, we still have to struggle just as before. Principle is absolute. And insofar as any individual can actually induce within consciousness upon principle a definite, concrete acceptance of his desire, it will manifest, even if every thought on earth had to change to compel it. If it were a bit of information that only one person on earth knew, and he was in the center of Africa, it would still be produced. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how hard it seems. It doesn't matter how impossible it looks. Once you know, once you embody, it's showing up. It's there. It's happening. There was a group of college kids who took a hike in the Alabama mountains in winter, but during the day it was like 72 degrees. They got lost. And the sun went down. And they're starting to get cold, starting to one of the kids actually got frostbite. And so there they are lost in the wood, and one of them, sits down and goes, I'm praying about this right here and now because I know that prayer works. The other kids actually made fun of him as they're freezing. But he sat there and he said, I know that we're saved. I know that this works out. I know that we live. And at that very moment, a park ranger truck pulled up and got them all. It doesn't even matter if nobody else around you believes what you do. That doesn't even matter. The only thing that matters is that you believe, that you know, that you take it in fully, that you get in the wheelbarrow, take the chance, and walk across. You don't need anybody else. You are a majority in and of yourself for your life. This is about your dreams coming true. This is about your life uplifting to a place you can't even imagine. It's possible not when you just affirm, but then and believe, but when you get in the wheelbarrow and take the action that is yours to take. I love you. Thank you. All right. Take out what you're going to give and hold it in your hand. This is not just money. This is God being expressed through you and as you. This is getting the law of circulation going. This is increasing your own prosperity. This is how we get it going. By not crimpling it up, you take it out and you hold it in your hand so that you know that what you are moving forward is your good, which is then returning to you multiplied abundantly as your good. Let's read this together. God is the source of all supply. Money is God in action. What we give, we receive multiplied abundantly. All that God is, I am, and so it is.